Welcome to this episode on entrepreneurship development. In this episode, we will continue our discussions from the previous episode, in which we had introduced the topic of project financing, and we had looked at the different issues involved in project financing, like how do you finance the fixed capital of the organization, and what are the avenues from which you can obtain fixed capital in order to finance the fixed assets of the business. And we had also introduced briefly the other requirement, which is the financing of the working capital of the organization. Basically, the organization's capital is required for two reasons. One is for financing the fixed capital, and the other is for financing the working capital. Now, our discussion about financing the fixed capital is over. That is what we had done in one of our previous episodes. And in this episode, we'll continue with our discussion on how to look at the working capital management of the organization. We had already introduced the concept of working capital, and we had said that the net working capital is really the excess of the current assets of the organization over the current liabilities. And what are the items which make up current assets? We had said that they basically comprise of the cash and bank balances of the company,
The accounts receivable.
the accounts receivable by the organization, the inventories carried by the organization in terms of the raw materials, the work in progress and the finished goods, also the stocks and spares held by the company, and finally the cash, the advances paid by the company, which are recoverable within the same accounting year. And we say that from this, if we deduct the current liabilities in the form of the accounts payable, that is the bills that the company will have to pay within the same accounting period or the accounting year, have to be deducted, and then what you get is the net working capital. And how do you manage this working capital is what is going to form our discussion here. Now, let us look at, first of all, what are the factors which determine the working capital. What are the determinants of working capital requirement of an organization? Can you think of some of the requirements which from which you can forecast the working capital for the organization?
So operating cycle?
Yeah, operating cycle. That's a very important point. Operating cycle, let's clarify what is operating cycle. See, a company's business starts with cash, and it again, comes around and forms cash for the company. So cash to cash, the time that elapses for the company, when you start by buying raw materials by paying cash, okay, and ultimately you sell the finished goods or services and you earn cash. So cash gets reconverted back to cash through a number of processes and over a certain period of time, and this is called the operating cycle. Okay, so if the operating cycle is very long, then obviously you will have to then your working capital requirement is going to be more, and hence the need for financing the working capital is going to be of a bigger quantum, right? And if the working capital, the operating cycle is short, that is, if you can quickly convert raw materials into finished goods and sell and get back money for whatever you have sold, then the operating cycle becomes short, and therefore the duration for which the raw material remains as raw material, or the work in progress remains on hand, or the inventories do not move and get sold, it becomes shorter, and therefore all costs connected with the inventory carrying and all that also get shortened, and therefore the requirement or the money to be locked up in working capital also going to go down as a result of this. Okay, so the operating cycle is a very important factor in the determination of the working capital requirement of the company. Fine, any other?
So sales volume also determines.
Right, the sales volume. Why is the sales volume an important determinant of the working capital? Like, for example, if a company is able to sell more, then it's going to produce a lot more also, right? And if it wants to produce a lot more, then it'll have to buy a lot of raw material. It'll have to, carry a big stock of finished goods. It'll have to carry inventory which is of a bigger quantum. Okay, so all this is going to eventually jack up the working capital requirement of the company. Whereas if the company is interested in selling very small volumes over a small number of customers, then its working capital requirements are not going to be so demanding. So the sales volume, the volume of business itself is going to have a major role to play in determining what is the quantum of working capital required by that business. Okay, any other?
So seasonal cycling features.
Right. There can be seasonal, fluctuations in the business of the company, or there can be even non-seasonal cyclical features in the economy which are going to have an impact on the working capital requirement. Now, how? can we elaborate a little bit on why the seasonal factors have an influence on the working capital?
So it could be as such that the demand for the means products would be high for some time in the
Right.
year, and it could be very less.
Right,
for some
that is
other part of the
seasonality.
year.
There are certain periods during the year when the demand is going to rise very fast, and there are peak seasons and there are off seasons for many products and many businesses, right? So during the peak season, the inventory is going to get converted very fast and it's going to sell very fast, and you can recover a lot of money from the market quickly. Okay, so cash to cash, the cycle can become shorter during the peak season or when the season is good. Products are selling very easily. The demand is very huge on the product. But then what happens in the off season? The demand becomes slack. So you have to carry a lot of inventory on hand because there is also the unpredictability of the demand. And in order to take care of the sudden when the demand suddenly arises, you will have to be able to meet it out of the inventory. Such things are going to be there, and therefore the off season is going to make a bigger demand on the working capital of the organization. So the seasons will even out, but by and large, you will have to look at the seasonality of the demand of the products and services you are going to market, and they are going to have a role to play in deciding the amount of working capital that you need to carry.
So how about policies of the firm?
Yeah, policies of the firm are going to play a role. In fact, before we go to that, I just want to mention the cyclical factors other than seasonality. Like every business also goes through cycles of, boom and recession. Businesses flourish at times and businesses go into recession at times. And it is very difficult to, call these cycles. When the turns are going to come, they are very difficult to forecast. And when you cannot forecast something, you have to take precaution to be able to face the eventuality of the uncertainty. And more the uncertainty, more will be your tendency to fall back on things like inventory and all, and which is indirectly going to make a demand on the working capital. So it's not just the seasonal fluctuation, also the economic fluctuation or the cyclical turns in the business of the company is going to play a role in deciding the working capital requirement. Yeah, coming to your point, the policies, right? The firm has got every business has its own policies of doing business. For example, a company might decide to extend a lot of credit to its buyers. Okay, maybe the company says that I will accept payment after 60 days from the date of sale of the product. Now, this compare this to a company which would say that no, I will like to receive immediate payment for whatever I sell. So the company that is going to sell on cash is going to quickly recover the money from the market, and therefore its operating cycle is going to get shortened. So less will be the amount of the working capital requirement for that company compared to the other one, which is going to extend 60 days of credit. So it has to quickly add those 60 days into the operating cycle, and for that period it has to survive before the money comes back to the company. So it has to prepare for a larger working capital base if it has got a relaxed credit policy, like as we mentioned. Anything else you can think of?
So how about shift in technology?
Yeah, right. Technology also, plays an indirect role in this. Like for example, if a company is using very advanced and sophisticated kind of technology, let us say it has got plants and machinery and equipment that can produce a lot faster and bigger volumes of bigger quantities of the product that the company is going to sell. Then what is going to happen is it's going to consume raw materials at a faster pace, is going to consume more volumes of raw materials, and is going to churn out higher volumes of the finished goods. So a lot of money therefore is going to get locked into the working capital in terms of raw materials and finished goods. May not be much in terms of work in process. But then because the raw materials and the finished goods form a part of the inventory, and which is in turn a part of the working capital, therefore a lot of money will be required for companies which invest in a lot of advanced and sophisticated technology compared to companies which do not invest so much in technology and rely on old and established kind of technology which takes a lot of time to produce a lot of goods. Okay, now let us turn our attention to how do you manage working capital. And when we say that we have to manage working capital, we basically mean two things. First of all, we will have to be able to estimate what is the requirement of working capital, and we have to organize for the procurement of the funds in order to meet the working capital needs, right? So one is estimation of the working capital, and the other is the procurement of funds, which constitute the working capital management. Now, if you look at the working capital estimation, what do you think, how would you, let's say, go about making a forecast of the working capital. What are the factors involved in making a forecast of the working capital requirement? Let's say I'll give you a lead. One of the things would be what is the cost that is going to be incurred in buying raw materials is going to be a major addition to the working capital. At what cost will I be able to buy raw materials from the raw materials market? If I'm able to negotiate heavily, if I'm able to buy in bulk quantities, if I'm able to extract heavy discounts from my suppliers of raw materials, maybe I would be able to restrict the total requirement of funds for the raw material procurement, and which in turn is going to have an impact on the working capital management. So what is the cost at which I'm able to procure raw materials? Okay. Then let's say another thing which you can study from the operating cycle, how long does it take on an average for a unit in the raw material to get into the process? That is, how long does raw material remain as raw material within the company? Okay. If the raw material quickly gets into the process and goes out quickly as finished goods, then the operating cycle becomes shorter, and then the working capital requirement becomes shorter. But if the raw material remains idle in the stores or in the warehouse, when they go down somewhere in the company, then it's going to have a major impact. The working capital requirement or the money locked up in working capital is going to be more. Okay,
So
our
time
objective is to
plays a
turn it
time
around
important
quickly.
role in this.
So time also plays an important role. It's not just the cost; it's also the time, for the raw material to become or be taken up for processing in the production process. That plays a role. Okay.
So how about the length of the production cycle?
Absolutely. The production process, if the production process consists of several units and sub-units of processes, then obviously it will take a longer amount of time for the raw material to get converted to the finished good. So the lengthier the production process or the production cycle is going to have a direct impact on the length of the operating cycle. If you're dealing with a product that is very simple to manufacture using very simple equipment and simple processes, perhaps you are going to be able to convert it into finished goods faster. And again, we are talking about time to convert. If the time to convert is short, is going to make a lower demand on the working capital. Fine. So what we will do is we'll take a short break at this point in time. We'll come back and discuss at length on these issues, and we'll see what are the other factors which are going to help you estimate the quantum of raw material that the company needs to finance. Okay. So are you clear of what we had discussed up to this point of time?
Yes.
Fine. Thank you then. Welcome back. Before we went into the break, we had discussed how to make an estimate of the working capital requirement of, let's say, a new business or a new unit that the business wants to start. We had started off with an understanding of what is working capital, what are the components that make up working capital, what is net working capital, and we had also taken a look at how to forecast the working capital requirement by looking at these issues in a lot more detail. Like we had just finished discussing before the break that it is the cost of raw materials which will determine the quantity of working capital required. We also said that the length of time that elapses between the raw material remaining as raw material and getting taken up for production plays a significant role, because it's not just the cost but also the time that elapses, which also is included as a part of the working capital. And Kashif did mention that it's also length of the production cycle. The longer the production cycle, again we are talking about the duration, the more the number of let's say weeks or days or months for which the production goes on a one unit of the product, let's say, you have to bear the cost of carrying that inventory, carrying the in-process goods with you and paying rent for it, and you're unable to convert that into money because you're unable to sell it as finished good. So that's going to escalate the requirement of working capital. Same for the finished goods. Finished goods, if they move out of the factory quickly and get sold in the market quickly, then it's going to demand less in terms of working capital. And if finished goods are going to remain as stock of finished goods, and if they have to wait for on an average 15 days to a month, as finished goods stock, then you have to again bear the cost of carrying the finished goods inventory and pay the rent for it and so on. And there is also insurance premium that you may have to pay over it. So all these add up to the cost of inventory, and all these indirectly add to the requirement of working capital. So the time frame involved in the entire production process plays a very significant role in deciding what is the amount of working capital that is going to be required.
So if you're talking
Yeah.
about time period of the production cycle,
Yep.
so then can't we also involve the time period of the credit that we
Sure
have
enough,
incorporated?
of course, we have to consider the average credit that we are going to extend to, let's say, our buyers. Okay, and the sooner I can recover money from my buyers, the better off I am, because I am able to reduce the operating cycle. And if I have more relaxed payment terms from my side, my buyers can afford to pay me after 1 year. Then I'm obviously, elongating the operating cycle, and therefore I will have to make do with less cash available at hand. It is going to adversely affect my cash and bank position. You understand this? Because it's going to adversely affect my accounts receivable position. So it's going to adversely affect my working capital position. So how are you managing your accounts receivable? How are you managing your accounts payable? Also play a very significant role in deciding, how are you managing your working capital. Okay. Like I said, we talked about the credit that we allow to our buyers. What about credit that we enjoy from our suppliers? There are people from whom we buy, and if we have to pay them promptly, immediately, or pay them advance, pay them cash on purchase, then we are losing a lot of cash. It's going out of the company quickly. On the other hand, if you are able to enjoy long credit periods from our suppliers, our vendors, that amount of money is going to remain with me and is going to positively impact my cash and bank balance position. So I am going to have a better management of my working capital as a result of this. But then also the fact remains that you cannot keep on, pending you cannot keep your suppliers' payment pending for a very long time. Otherwise, you're going to create a lot of dissatisfaction down the supply chain, and that can have major, impact elsewhere in your business. So it's not advisable to think of it, in isolation. You have to think of the whole business in totality, and you have to look at what the supply chain would absorb is what you would be able to do in your working capital management. The other thing is the time lag involved in the payment of wages and overheads also. Like if a company, is able to, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but then if a company is able to get away by paying the wages and salaries of its workers, on a delayed basis, what does happen? It impacts it in fact has a positive influence on the working capital position of the company. But then it's not a good thing to do, because after all, one of the most important obligations of the company is to pay wages and salaries on time. So you are defaulting on that in order to have an impact on your working capital situation. It's not that companies do not do it. In times of crisis and adversity, many companies hold back salaries or pay salaries and wages at a deferred date, maybe because they want to tide over a particular crisis at a given point in time. But then one should not think of making this a practice, because it's going to affect the company or the employee morale in the organization, and that again is going to have very serious implications on the overall business health of the organization. If this is the estimation of the working capital, the other issue involved is how do you procure funds for working capital? From where do you procure funds for your working capital? Well, there are many apart from the fact that there are the usual methods of borrowing from banks and other financial institutions, and even from the public for funding not only your fixed assets but also your working capital, there are many short-term finance sources which you can tap into. Like we did say that the bills accountable or the accounts, the bills payable or the accounts payable is a source of revenue that is tapped by many organizations when they have a crisis in working capital. Like we did say that if you can keep the bills that you have to pay pending for a longer duration of time, that is, if you can begin to enjoy a longer period of credit, if you can increase your credit period, enjoy a longer credit period with your suppliers, then that is going to, help you manage your working capital better. And then there are accruals, like there are many payments that accrue over time. For example, we mentioned wages and salaries which are payable, taxes payable, duties payable. Now, if you are able to juggle around and defer the payment of such obligatory payments, then again you are going to have these are also looked upon as short-term sources of finance. There are again what are called unsecured non-bank short-term sources. Like there are banks who issue, there are financial institutions who issue commercial paper which can be bought by the company, which carry a very low rate of interest and which need to be repaid, after a certain period of time. There are private loans that you could fall back on. And you can even ask for cash advances from customers. Many a time when you have very big customers with whom you enjoy a long-standing relationship, and the customer is almost a part of your business, there is a very, as I say, there is a seamless chain between you and the and your customers. Then many a time the customers help you tide over crisis in working capital management. You can even draw an advance, a cash advance from customers at very relaxed repayment terms, or they may even give you a interest-free advance at times if they value the relationship with your company. And then of course some other methods have come up, like pledging and factoring of receivables. I don't know if you know about them. Accounts receivables are what they are. This is money that is due to you. You are going to recover that money from your creditors, right? Fine. So when you are going to recover that money and you think there is time available, and what you can do is you can pledge the accounts receivable to another company. Okay. That is by pledging or assigning accounts receivable, a firm gives up the right to the cash collected on these accounts. And because the receivables are normally liquid, they can be converted to cash very easily and very quickly. They can become an attractive collateral for many commercial banks. So by pledging the accounts receivable bills, you can take a loan from a bank. The bank treats the accounts receivable or the bills receivable as a collateral for the loan that they extend to you. Okay, that's one way of accessing finance from banks by using accounts receivable as a collateral. And factoring is a step ahead, in which the accounts receivables are outright sold to a third party. Maybe a bank buys out, or a financial institution buys out your bills receivable, and they are going to recover those bills from your suppliers, right?
Is it something like bill discounting?
It is not bill discounting. It is an unofficial kind of a thing. Bill discounting can be part of a regular payment basis, but here the difference is this, that the company buys out the accounts receivable from you, okay, and they are responsible for recovering that money from your suppliers, and they know that they are not using it as a collateral. Unlike in pledging, they are not using your accounts receivable as a collateral. They are taking it, they are outright buying it from you, and they will recover the money from your suppliers, and they will perhaps extend a certain amount of money to you for the accounts receivable that they buy from you. And of course they will pay you less for it, because they will have to take the trouble of recovering the money from the market. That amount of effort will also come at a cost.
Since the risk is involved.
Risk is involved, and there is an amount of effort to be spent on recovering that money, and cost is going to be involved. So they are going to pay you less than what the value of the account receivable is. But then what you are doing is you are converting it quickly into cash, a lesser amount of cash maybe. But then when you are really hungry for cash, you can explore this option of what is called factoring the receivable. You sell out the receivables to a third party, which could be a financial institution, which pays you a certain amount of money less than the total accounts receivable, but then they pay you in cash, which is the advantage. And this has a direct and immediate impact on your working capital situation.
So it also in a way substantially improves our liquidity position.
In fact, that is the reason why it's done, to improve the liquidity. In fact, they're losing money, as you see. They are not recovering the entire account receivable, but then they're recovering less. But then what they are valuing is the liquidity which is available immediately, which would have been available otherwise maybe after 1 year or 2 years. That is the advantage they're taking from here. Of course, other revenues like bank credit is there. Bank credit, as we all know, is a major source of financing for working capital, because banks offer both secured as well as unsecured loans, such as cash credit. They also give you overdrafts depending on the kind of relationship that they have with you. They give you loans and advances, and even do purchasing and discounting of bills that you were mentioning. So banks do all that, okay. And other revenues could even be public deposits. Another source of short-term finance are unsecured public deposits. A company can borrow up to a certain amount from the public, and the maturity period would vary from 6 months to 5 years. But then a lot of wrongdoing has happened in this area. Companies have taken public deposits and they have, they have gone back on repayment and payment of interest. A lot of problems have happened, and therefore nowadays these are quite stringent. You cannot go beyond a certain limit in terms of taking public deposits, and you have to stick to repayment terms and repayment interest rates, which are monitored by the government. Okay. And ultimately, one other thing we would like to mention is there are intercompany deposits. Like, it's a deposit made by one company with another, and normally this would come for a period of up to 6 months. They are the short-term deposits made by one company in another company. Maybe another company, a friendly company, a known company, deposits into your company. Okay, so they can be called deposits, or 3-month deposits, or 6-month deposits. These are all short-term deposits which can be recalled, can be withdrawn at a very short notice by the depositing company. Okay, many a times even at a day's notice they should be able to withdraw the deposit that they have made, and then the maximum period that they make the deposit in your company is going to be up to 6 months, beyond which you will have to repay the deposit to the company which has made that deposit. So these are some of the, of course, finally the Life Insurance Corporation, the General Insurance Corporation, all insurance companies have also entered into the business of extending short-term loans and such things to companies which are interested to do business in new areas, depending on the feasibility of that business and of interest to that insurance company. So these are many of the areas that you have to look into in trying to finance your working capital. I think we are running out of time and we have to close our discussion today, and I hope I've been able to give you some ideas of how to look at working capital, how to manage it, and how to look for avenues for financing your working capital over and above what you have done for your fixed capital requirement. Unless you have any questions, we are going to close down for this episode.
No questions.
Thank you then.